As the Toastmasters program evolved, we have now reached that educational program that we have to delve right into, and of course, it's Pathways. It's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of the Pathways panel. We all know Alfred Kirkland as our program quality director, but did you know that he's been a Toastmaster for over 25 years? Wow. Now that's a man who is not afraid of commitment. So here to lead the Pathways discussion, please welcome Alfred Kirkland.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. It's fun to think about pathways, and I've picked 3 of the brightest stars to answer questions about pathways. What is it all about? How does it work? How do we become better using it? So there's 3 people, and our brightest stars in this field, I feel, are Lloyd William, Cheryl Poirier, and David Story. Now, obviously, there's many questions that we have about pathways. And here's one. Can we still do speeches from old manuals if we have them at home? This is a question directed to Lloyd. Lloyd, tell us a little bit.
Well, thanks for that question, Alfred. I'm supposed to go up on speaker view, it says. I'm still seeing myself. So thank you for that question. I do want to point out one thing first. I'm here to speak about the paper pathways eventually. And I also wanted to make note that since this is being hosted by Steinbach, I thought I'd go out to Steinbach Professional Business Professionals Club and actually speak from there. So this is one of the meetings that Steinbach Professionals had earlier when they were forming. The question was, can we still do speeches from old manuals? Well, no, as of July 1st, we no longer recognize the old manuals. We're not supposed to use the old manuals. All of our speeches are supposed to be from pathways. So if members have not chosen a path yet, it would be a really good time to choose a path, and make sure that you choose a path that you can start working on your speeches and your projects. Alfred?
Thank you very much, Lloyd. So that's a pity. We have all these manuals and can't do nothing with them anymore. Toss them out, put them aside, read them later, but don't use them at the district level anymore, or even in your clubs. Pathways is just as good, and we will hear why. Now, there's a question about paper manuals. Pathway paper manuals. Cheryl, are they available?
Oh, thank you, Alfred. Yes, but there are 5 paths available in paper manuals. They're not all in multiple languages, but I don't think we really need to worry about that in this district, which is all Canada and the US. And most people are speaking English in their clubs. You can choose from only 5, however, and you have to pay an extra $25 US in order to receive them. This pays, of course, for the printing and the shipping, and it's shipped in 3 different mailings at this point, although I really think they're going to change that and put it all in one.
Okay. Now, we already heard how many printed paths are there. David, how many levels are to each path? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you, Alfred. All the levels are structured pretty much the same way. There's actually 11 paths, and within those 11 paths, they're broken down into 5 different levels. And the first level is the introductory portion, where your members are going to learn all of the basics that they need to move forward as Toastmasters and get into some of those more advanced speeches that you're going to get into the level 3s and 4s and 5s. So they're all broken down the same way, levels 1 through 5, Alfred.
Thank you very much, David. Now, there was a presentation of awards earlier today, And we're all looking for these pins, the Triple Crown pins. Some of us received those. So how many levels do I need to complete to get my Triple Crown?
In actual fact, giving out Triple Crowns can be a decision made by the district leadership team, whether you need to do 2 levels or 6 levels. But Toastmasters International will post your name as winning a Triple Crown if you have finished 3 levels.
I want to compete in the international speech contest. What pathways requirement are necessary to compete? Who was this? Lloyd.
I believe it's 2 levels. You have to get a level 1 and a level 2. However, for anyone that hasn't started their pathways yet and they were doing their speeches in the old legacy system, back then you had to get 6 speeches in the Competent Communicator. So if you had that in the past by June 30th, that still counts. So you can still use the old legacy numbers, 6 speeches in the Competent Communicator. And if it's in pathways starting this year, if you've just joined since pathways started, it would be 2 levels, level 1 and level 2.
Okay, thank you. Now, is this all by me? No. We said that we will have a panel and it's open to questions from all the other people participating today. Hearing about reluctance of going on pathways, there must be questions coming out of the audience of what it's all about, how it's going, and what do we have to do. So let's hear them.
I have a question.
Hey, Janet, you go ahead.
I am the new VPE for Lions Place, Vice President of Education, and I don't have a clue how to be a base camp manager. Is there going to be training for that?
That should be a question that I can answer. Certainly there is training coming for pathways. We are planning training sessions, and Lloyd is my educational person, and we will talk about that. I certainly see the need that there will be training, and we will hand that. Now, some of that might have been addressed in officer training already, but if we need to go more in depth, we will do that, and we will plan a session.
One thing, Alfred, by this point in time, originally when Toastmasters launched the program of Pathways, they actually set up Pathways Guides and Pathways Ambassadors. And the guides were out there to train the club members in Pathways. And the idea was that as some people got proficient in the clubs themselves, some of the clubs would actually help their fellow members out. So something like Jeanette there asking, I believe Ardith is in that club, and Ardith is really well versed in moving the paper pathway along. They have actually in Lions Place, they have one of their members working on paper paths. It's Hazel. And I think that's wonderful. Like Hazel's turning 90 and she is still working in pathways. She picked the paper path. And Ardith does the base camp manager work of moving Ardith along from project to project in pathways. And it's not really complicated. Actually, if you get into base camp, they have tutorials on how to do it. So that's one thing that's helpful. But one of the things, just to say to Jeanette and other clubs out there, if you have a resource right inside your club that has some knowledge, they would be a good person to turn to, Alfred.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. But we will certainly think and look at it and see if we can put a training session together. But that only happens once, so we need to get the people actually there so that we don't have to do it over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And that's logistics of it. So let's see what happens, and we will talk about that more, Lloyd and I. Now, do we have another question, or I have one? Gerald.
How you doing again there, Alfred?
Not too bad.
Alfred, Lloyd was talking about competing, so I assume that you would still have to be in a club that, like within Pathways, your club had to be in good standing, and you have to be in good standing. Is that correct?
That is always correct.
In order to compete.
That is always correct.
Okay, now one more
In
question.
good standing, and you have to be a member of Toastmasters, otherwise you will not be able to compete.
Who checks that before he or she can compete?
That should be done at the club level by a vice president of education. Once it comes to the area director, it should have been no question at all anymore, because you already signed that you're a member in good standing of a club in good standing. So at the area division and district, there should be absolutely no questions that you are eligible to compete.
Thank you, Alfred.
Okay. Now, any pathways questions? I have another. How many paths does it take to become a distinguished Toastmaster? This is, I believe, Lloyd. Oh no, let's ask David.
Thank you, Alfred. It's actually not all that difficult. You need 2 completed paths, along with some of the other items that was mentioned in Cheryl's presentation with the electives, to become a distinguished Toastmasters in Pathways. So you have the educational portion, which is the 2 paths, and then you still have the leadership portion that you must go through.
Okay, and the leadership portion takes to have been a district officer. That means have been an area director or division director, or one of the top 3 positions. You also have to do the speech craft, as we heard earlier, or something similar to become a distinguished Toastmaster. So, Laverne, I think we need to order a lot of DTM pens too within the next year.
And club mentors as well, right?
Yep.
And club coaches is the other one. So they actually, that's one
Somebody
portion.
pops up sponsors, so there's a lot of things that, David, to everyone, you have a knack in Mike.
I got one.
Okay, let's see. Lloyd?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I've got a question from the chat here. It says, is it a requirement to upload the evaluation form, the PDF, to Basecamp? And yeah, that's been one of my sore spots ever since they launched Pathways. Is you can do these wonderful PDFs online, you can save the file, you can send it to the person that was speaking. Even more important now that we're using Zoom, actually. But people had the misconception that they had to upload that file to some particular place on Basecamp before they could progress, and that's not true. You can upload the file to store it in Basecamp, which is fine. You'll only have access to that storage facility as long as you're a Toastmaster, but there is no requirement to upload anything to move along in your path. And this was something I've been saying for years. If you want to store it in a cardboard box in the back of your room as a piece of paper, fine. If you want to store it in your email system, fine. If you want to store it on your computer, fine. If you want to store it on Basecamp, we can show you how to do it, but it is not a requirement for moving along in Pathways.
Okay. Now I have another question here, and I will let Cheryl answer this. Are there Pathways completions required for other speech contests other than the international contest?
That's easy, no.
Well, expand on it.
Expand on it, please. Don't make it just a no answer. Let's hear why.
There's a lesson in how to ask a question. Don't make it a yes or no. It is the same as it's always been. It's the same as it always been. The International Speech Contest is the only contest approved by Toastmasters that requires you to have completed either 6 speeches in the Competent Communication Manual or 2 full levels in a path. All the others just mean that you have to be a paid member of a paid club. That's referring back a little bit to what Gerald was asking. Yes, a paid member in a paid club is the only other criteria for speech contests, such as table topics.
Hey, it sounds like, yeah, that's a contest that we're going to have beside the international contest this year. So look forward to that. Thank you for mentioning. Now, we all must be Pathways managers or experts, because I don't see any questions coming in from the crowd. Can I hear questions from the crowd?
I'll give you one.
Okay.
If you complete your level say your first level in that, and you pass it on to your vice president of education. And so it's recorded in the TI system. But does it automatically shift over and go into the Distinguished Club program that you get credit there?
David?
No, it doesn't. So CSOD, which is the program where Pathways is held, it tracks its own thing. So it's the responsibility of your base camp managers and mostly your VPE now to actually log into Club Central and actually award it in there as well. And that will trigger that going into your Distinguished Club program. Does that answer your question, Ed?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mike.
Toastmasters has about 1,000 videos online about pathways, and every time you go through to look at all your path, you have to look at, you know, probably 5, 10, 15 videos. Why should I do that? Number one. Number two question is, how many electives do I need to do to get a DTM?
Mike?
Well, I'm not too sure what videos you mean, Mike. I'm actually just, can I share? I'm actually sitting here in Pathways right now, and if I click Paths, and I click Open Curriculum, I'm in my path. I didn't have to go through a video, so I'm just not too sure what.
Click on your lesson and or your level, okay? And to learn about your level, there's just a ton of videos. Should I just keep going through all these videos or just take a chance?
Well, I don't know if there's a ton. There's one video in this one probably, in this particular project. There might be a video per project, but they were using that as one of the great selling points of better than paper actually, was that you have access to these nice videos where they give you examples. And I'll give one example. I was teaching how to do evaluations, and I wasn't sure the Toastmasters way that they're talking about it, but in one of these lessons, you can actually go in and they actually show you evaluations being done by members that are doing poor evaluations and doing good evaluations. And I found that very powerful because I wasn't sure. You know, I would go to meetings, am I supposed to do it this way? Am I supposed to do it that way? And the odd thing is, Mike, I'm on my 18th year, and this is on my 17th year where I'm having hesitations, and I wanted to see how Toastmasters was actually promoting it. So to actually see a video of how that is done, I thought was just wonderful. It's actually very powerful to me. The electives you're talking about, they don't start till level 3. There's 2 electives in level 3. In level 4, there's 1 elective, and in level 5, there's 1 elective required. So, you know, that was what, 5 or 6 electives? It's not a lot. To get a DTM, you would probably be doing about 14 projects per path. So that works out to about 28 projects. So you might do 30 speeches.
And Mike, just to add to that, depending on the path you take in the later, I think the number of electives also change. So.
But it's not a huge pool.
No.
Thank you.
Well,
Carol, I have a question for you. If you held a district role, area director or higher in the old system, do you have to do it again for Pathways?
Oh, thank you for that.
No, it's not the answer.
No. Oh, I'm prepared for you this time. I was only going to do that to you once. You would not have to repeat it unless you used it towards an award in the old system already. If you were an area director 10 years ago and put it toward an advanced leader silver, even if you didn't get your DTM, but it was credited toward an award, you cannot reuse it. That's double dipping, and we don't want to do that. And besides, they wouldn't let you. But if you have a service credit that you haven't applied anywhere else, you may still apply it to a Pathways DTM. As long as it's sitting out there in cyberspace, not used for anything, you can use it for this.
Let me extend the question a little bit, Cheryl. I just thinking, I've been an area director, I've been area governor, I've been a division director, I've been a division governor. And I might not remember the positions that I used for my DTM or ALS the first time around. How can I find out the second time around?
Answer that one?
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Okay, Lloyd.
Well, I want to answer that one because last year I had to put an award in for Alfred at PBS. And when you go on to the the Toastmasters International website, when you're clicking on how to give Alfred that award, you can pick from his past roles that he hasn't used yet. And Alfred has such a huge list of things. It's just like you say, you've been so many things and you've never had to apply them towards anything, that there's quite a list there. So I may be wrong, but they seem to be listed at Toastmasters International, and any of you used are not on that list. I could be wrong, but it seems to be that way.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's all there listed for you, and you can't choose what has already been used because it's gone.
Okay. So it won't allow you.
It won't allow you to choose something that was used before.
So Alfred, you have plenty of more DTMs you can do on the leadership side already.
I've been procrastinating on the second for way too long. I should have had a high performance leadership for my convention. I should have a high performance leadership running right now. Guess what? Been procrastinating along.
That's okay.
But that's the way it goes. You have too many other things that you want to do, and it just works that way. Now, any other questions? Come on, guys and ladies.
Alfred, let's just say I started my path. I've got my first one completed. I picked humorous, okay? I'm now going to leave the other one in the background and move over to the humorous. And we were just talking about competing, which I can't this year, but anyway. Can that be like the first level on this one? And then the next one would be my second one when I went over to humorous. Is that correct, David's story? Can I use that as my two paths being done to compete in a contest?
That's actually a good question. I really don't know the answer to that, but I don't think so. Cheryl or Lloyd, do you have any more information on that?
Well, it's not paths that you have to complete. It's only levels. If you've completed a path, you're well past two levels.
That's true.
You've done 5. So sure, not that you need it, Gerald. You have everything else, right? You could, if you were someone who had only, in the old program, only got through 6 speeches in the Competent Communicator Manual, hadn't even started a path, you are still eligible to compete. Because those awards don't vanish into thin air. It's not like they never happened. They did happen. They're in your education profile. Of course, a CC isn't, because you only completed 6. So if a member's completed 6 speeches in the old program and hasn't even started Pathways by the spring, well, first of all, shame on them. And second, sorry, I'm going to shame you. But they could still compete.
And it's level, you must have completed level 1 and 2 in any path. It says level 1 and a level 2.
Not 2 level 1s.
Yeah.
Has to be a level up. Complete a level 2 is the best way to say it.
I just did something unusual. I opened up the speech contest book and read it in the speech contest book just this moment, just to verify that it was a 1 and a level 2 in any path. You can't do a level 1 in one path and a level 2 in another path. It doesn't work that way because they will not credit level 2 until you finish level 1. So it has to be, typically it'd be level 1 and 2 in the same path anyway.
Thank you very much, because that was brought up in one of the meetings.
Okay, I have a question from Linda here. How many paths can a person work on at the same time? David?
I'm working on 4. So if you're willing to, once you get your initial path as a member, if you're willing to pay your additional $20 or $25 US for as many paths as you want, I say go for it.
Yeah, I know a Toastaholic who did all 11, well, 10, because there were only 10 at the time. He did 10 at once. I thought he was a nutcase.
David is just such an overachiever. No, I'm on 3. I'm contemplating 4, and then I have the mentorship path. So I'm working on the same scenario. I liked one better than the other, then I didn't like it anymore, and I said, okay, let's start another and see if that works better. It seems every one of those, I stopped at 3, because number 4 is one of those that where you have to actually work
More
on
involved.
specific.
Yeah. Number 4 is like moderating a panel at a fall rally or something, right? That'd be tough to do, right?
Gee. So I need to get credit. Hey, somebody needs to evaluate me on this.
I'll print out the form and evaluate you, Alfred.
Hey, perfect.
There's a question in chat, Alfred.
Yeah.
Okay, Cecilia is asking, did you say we can do different paths at the same time? Does this mean you don't have to finish the first one to start the second path? David,
Absolutely correct. I am in level 5 in one path, level 1 in another path, level 3 in the third one, almost done my mentoring. And along with that, they've also changed the fact that you don't need to do your speeches in order anymore. So once you've got past even your icebreaker, I mean, you can go to level 5 and do a level 5 project in one path, choose a different path, do a level 3 project. You can jump around, almost like having the old manuals where you can read through and say, I'm doing a speech. What would this fit into? You have that choice with multiple paths and levels.
Okay, any more? Come on, questions.
Alfred, I have a question.
Okay, Silver.
I'm really concerned because it seems like when we get new members in, they need mentors, and nobody feels very competent to mentor that new member on pathways. And so people are very slow getting into pathways. I'm just wondering, is there any, little guide that could be given to a mentor to get people rolling?
Well, I really like the Pathways Mentor program, but of course you have to get through level 2 to get to it. My suggestion is to treat it as if this was a brand new club and there were no experienced Toastmasters in it, if this is the case. And I would suggest you set up co-mentors. So 2 people work at it together, and one finds out something cool, they tell the other. So that it's not one person with all the knowledge, because let's face it, in real life, and mentors say in a workplace or a volunteer organization, no one knows everything. It's a better idea if you match up people and say, why don't you co-mentor each other, work through the program together. And I think once people are finished a level 1, they'll have a great idea of how Pathways works. Because level 1 is frankly the most confusing and challenging of all. It has the most amazing projects, and it covers basically the whole Toastmasters program in 4 projects essentially. So it's a challenging one, and it's one where people helping each other, matching people up, I think is the way to go. Just like you might in a brand new Toastmasters club where you only have 2 club mentors. If you're lucky, you have 2 club mentors. And Lloyd's got his hand up.
Well, my pen disappears. It's kind of neat. Alfred, can I do a sales pitch here?
Yes, you can.
So
Certainly.
last year, there were these 3 wonderful Toastmasters named David Story, Lloyd Gwillem, and Thekla Thiat, who did Pathways presentations, question and answer sessions.
Yep.
And we actually did videos of all those sessions. I'm just showing you the videos here. I'll send the link in the chat window, if I can copy it. Yeah, there we go. And we actually went through how to select a path, how to access the first project, how to complete a level. I did my speech now, what? Basecamp Manager, Jeanette was interested in that. Tutorials for success, how to do badges, portfolios, and accounts. It was pretty good sessions that we offered last year. And the videos are there. The videos actually reside on the District 64 YouTube channel. So if you had new members, no harm in letting them see these. One of the nice things about watching a video is you can skip ahead if you get bored on the part you're watching, and if you see something that's better content. So that sits there, and I'll send a link to that. And it's something. It's not the total answer. It's just something.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. So Toastmasters, note the link in the chat and check it out, because we may learn something. A lot of effort was put into that last year with training people and putting on these sessions. So might as well make use of those ideas and also videos, because that's how we get along. And if you have a question after the video, there's always a person right next to it saying, okay, David did this, so let's ask him. He may be able to explain the last question that I have. Any more questions in the audience?
Alfred, I sent you one that I got on the chat here.
Okay.
It says, as a vice president education, how do I approve in Basecamp the person who's not enrolled in the club? So the example is, I want to approve their Club Central award, but on Basecamp, they're in another club, I guess. So how does that work?
Okay, who would like to answer that? Lloyd or David?
Well, you're right. I belong to 3 clubs as well. And basically what I do is I set my home club to whatever club in Basecamp Manager that I want it to be awarded to. So I go in there and I click it, and now the officers can see that it's going to be completed in the Basecamp, and then they can go into Leadership Central and actually award it there. And then once I get that feedback and I do a club and finish a level at another club, I can do the same thing, switch it to that club and make sure that it gets awarded. It's a bit cumbersome. I hope that eventually they change that, but just remember, the path is yours. It doesn't belong to Toastmasters, so you can put it wherever you want.
You might have to do something old fashioned, like pick up the phone and say, could you please sign into the club? You want me to approve this level? You're not signed into that club for Basecamp. Just take a few minutes and go in and change it.
Now,
for a while, it took a long time for the change to happen, but now it's instantaneous.
Now I'm going to bring out something old school, and I wish I would have got it ahead of time. I've created a spreadsheet, and I think it was in that link that Lloyd put up. I actually track in all my clubs hard copy. So I'm there as a VPE, and they're doing a speech, and I look at this and I go tick on paper, and I can track on paper and compare that to what I see online, because sometimes people become forgetful and don't complete the online one saying they've completed the speech. So as a VPE, I have another method of tracking that, ooh, Lloyd's done this speech in my club. I know he was there. I listened to it. I check it off. Lloyd, please go complete it in the computer so that I can give you credit for it on TI website.
I've got it here, David, there. That one?
That's it. Yep, that's it exactly.
And there's a link to that on that web page we're just talking about.
And I can make a little post on, not post on the advertising for myself on that.
The link's right there.
Any club submitting the club success plan to Alfred will actually receive one of those as an incentive.
And you can actually get the wall chart from TI now, I believe, Alfred.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Sindra had a question. What is a mentor program that has been mentioned a few times in this discussion? Not asking what is a mentor, but it sounds like there is a separate level of program in Pathways. David, you're up, so you might as well answer it.
Well, I'm almost done mine, and I could tell you, yes, like Cheryl said earlier, you actually have to complete level 2 in order to start the mentoring program in Pathways, and it is separate from any other path. And you go through, and essentially what it is, it's a short-term and a long-term working with a protege or mentee in your club, and you're actually evaluating each other, and you're giving feedback to the club on how that has gone, and it works quite well.
Yes,
like I say, I'm on the advanced mentoring one right now, and I'm looking forward to completing it.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, this is, I put mine up. I'm sharing my screen so you can see what the summary is right there. An overview of the Toastmasters mentor program, help you clarify your personal goals and interests as they relate to mentoring. The project focuses on facilitating a short-term mentoring assignment, and then there's a 6-month term as a mentor. So that you don't, I worked on all of them consecutively, and the 6-month term is almost over. And the great thing about right now is if you can't find someone who's willing to be mentored by Zoom, I'm actually mentoring a young woman who's an area director in Hungary as one of the people I'm mentoring. So this is an opportunity to mentor people from all over the world, or maybe, and this is just a plug for asking for a mentor, asking people from all over the world if they would mentor you. It's a wonderful opportunity to go international with your mentoring. But you can access this once you finish level 2, I believe. Am I right, Lloyd and David?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question, please. Nobody? Nobody?
No, I had a question.
Okay, Lloyd.
Now I'm just looking, I always stick these pictures in the background. I didn't realize that's Lloyd sitting beside me right there. I just wanted to point that out. I must have borrowed the picture from someone at Steinbach, so I'll have to thank them for use of the picture. Even the same blue shirt. Sorry, Alfred. I thought we're supposed to keep it light and fun after lunch because people tend to fall asleep.
Yeah, no, I think we have them all with us. Or let's check the screens. Anybody nodded off? No, but I entertain more questions. So we still have 15 minutes roughly. Hit us with questions about pathways, because it is important to every club, to every member. And how do you start the mentor program? Lloyd, you're up, so just tell us.
Hello, Alfred. Alfred, I have a question for Dave Story, and I might know. Okay, for instance, or Cheryl, like she said, she's overseas. So if you want to find a club overseas, do you just go on international and then see if they're on Zoom? So you could actually ask if you can come back. Whoops, let me get this right. If I could join them that day, like I've never tried it, but I mean, I would have been with Star of the North because they sent the virtual to me, or the Zoom number. Is that how you do that, Cheryl, David?
That's exactly how you do it. And be sure you check the time zones.
Oh,
right? You don't want to.
It's 2 in the morning.
Yeah, 1:30 in the afternoon in England is like 7:30 a.m. here, and you've missed it if you wait till 1:30 that day.
Okay.
So be sure you check what time zone they're in, and I believe it says so on Find a Club what the time zone is. People are supposed to put that in. And if you, by the way, would all like to go check your Club Central addendum of standard club options and check what, if you have put the time zone in, that would be great for people to find you as well. So, but you got to watch those time zone things.
And in Club Central, remember to make sure that you check off where it says your club meets online.
Yes, do that. Yes.
And that way you can find out the clubs that meet online. You can go to their club website.
I once visited a club in London, England.
Go ahead.
I once visited a club in London, England. It was 6:30 their time in the morning. I don't know why anybody would get up at 6:30 on a Sunday morning, but it was midnight my time when the club started. But it was a really neat experience because they had members from all over the world, in different countries from all over the world. And so it was a really great experience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I have another question. Does a level in which Robert McDowell asks this, does a level which is approved in one club have to be registered in the same club in the DCT program? Lloyd? Yeah, Lloyd.
Well, yeah, David Story sort of answered that before. That's when the one question was about how do we get into the Club Central, and tracking the information. No, they don't have to be used in the same club. I mean, that's entirely up to you where you want to put your awards. If I'm in 2 clubs, I'm in West Winners and PBS. If I complete it in West Winners and they show it as complete in Pathways, which is a different computer system, as David said, it's Cornerstone On Demand, CSOD. So then I can get PBS. If I want my award to be registered in my Distinguished Club program, I can have them do it at PBS. There's nothing wrong with it with that. It's up to me where my awards go. It's not up to the club. And I happen to be in 2 clubs. So one nice thing is if I do all my speeches in one club, it would be nice if I had the award in that same club, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah, but as clubs go, Lloyd, the panel here knows as well as I do that other people are doing completions too. So although you may be working towards your level 3 in a certain path and Pathways, you may already have in your first club all the level 3s mandated to get your DCP.
Yeah.
So you can give it to a club that needs it, that you belong to.
Well, I'm not one of these clubs need things. I'm about Lloyd. Anyway, but I get your point, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any further question? Please. Okay, Janet, what is your question?
My question is, the next couple of speeches that I prepared in my head are ones where I have to show things, and I hesitate to do that because, well, right now I'm sitting at my computer and I don't know if people would be able to see properly and so on when I'm showing things, and they're small things and so on.
Like what? Like a stapler?
Yeah, because it's hacks on different hacks, and so I don't know if I have it in front of me here, but one is a tiny little piece that I want to show that people don't realize maybe what it's for and so on.
It can be done, Jeanette. I was taking online training classes with Shaw, and they're showing us all the little things on their camera,
Okay.
what to use. You have to be careful with webcam, how close you get things. Like, you know, I can show you these paper clips,
Okay,
and it says paper clips, I think.
okay,
One thing you have to do, like with me, you have to turn the virtual off because they tend to disappear
yeah,
when you have this virtual thing on. That's why my pen was disappearing.
good point.
But you can do pretty good with the cameras.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't let that stop me, Jeanette. I would try to do the speech and do the demo and get feedback on how you might improve it. Like they might tell you different angles. The biggest problem we have online here is lighting.
Yes,
And when I do this virtual thing, I actually have 3 sets of lights on me right now. I've got one in front of me, I got one above me behind me, and I got one above me in the ceiling. And if you can get good lighting, then you can share a lot of stuff on even a weaker camera.
okay, I'll play around with my lighting.
I can expand on that a little bit yet. Even so, I'm sitting right now. If I had a little bit more room and I have the equipment, you can do pretty nearly anything. That's what comes into effect once we get into the speech contest season. Once we get there, you will have to do virtual speeches at the area, and there it becomes important that you are looking at the camera, that you possibly stand, that you have room to even move, but the camera doesn't lose you, and the microphone will carry or will catch your voice. So
Right.
there's a lot of things that you can do if you have a little bit of room.
One thing I find the camera is hard to look at. It hurts my eyes. So I'll look just below it. I'll make a dot.
Yep. Okay. Do I have
Alfred?
any other questions?
Alfred, I have a comment. Evelyn Variable, I have a comment. Can you hear
Yep.
me?
Yep.
I have a comment. In answer to Janet's question or comment, what I did was I called my good friend Carrie Lippisjack. For the first time I was sharing a screen and we went over it together. So I had when it came meeting time, I had the confidence to share my screen, and it didn't go perfectly, but it went well enough. So that's something to try. It could be your mentor. You could get a mentor for that. I have a question about recording Pathways accomplishments. When we were working in the legacy program, we could only record one accomplishment, like a level per club per year. If I completed 2 CCs, the club would get credit for only 1 CC in the same year. Is it the same with Pathways? If I complete 2 level 1s in 1 year, then I have to give it to another club or wait for the next year to record it?
I can
Cheryl,
answer.
you want to answer that?
Yes, it is true. But if you complete them, it's a great thing to get that credit right away rather than saving it. This idea of saving for the next year is up to you, of course, but I personally think that members who are told, oh, save it for July when they finish it in May so we can get credit next year, are putting the club before the member. I personally believe people should get credit as soon as they have finished something and have asked to be given the credit. I've stayed up till 1 o'clock sometimes to get things done so members get that credit when they deserve it. And if you are in 2 clubs, sure, share it, the 2 level 1s between 2 clubs. But it is true, you can only get credit for the club. The club can only get credit for an individual's same type of reward once. Mind you, a person could do a level 1 through 5 and all 5 of those be credited to the club. It's just, you couldn't give 2 level 1s or 2 level 2s.
Thank you, Cheryl.
But don't save it forever.
We had a question from Terry. Terry, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, as long as we have 3 experts there and you're running out of questions, can I segue a little bit off of Pathways?
Go ahead.
Okay, we just recently lost 2 of our executive members. They got busy and they left us. So we're down to 6 people in our club. And we have a room to pay rent on. And we were thinking maybe we would do 1 Zoom meeting a month to save on a month's rent. And if we attract members from other places, how can we charge them to be members? Do they only pay US membership? And how do we work that?
It was a question about making a payment to a person who's from a person who's solely an online member?
Yes.
Okay, Lloyd, I believe you have a plan for talking about hybrid clubs. Or
I was typing out Alfred's evaluation here, sorry.
okay. But I'm a member and have been a member for a long time of a hybrid club.
Yeah.
So it's only recently we've run into a problem, and it's because of the US Postal Service being incredibly slow. We had members in the US who went to a bank and got a check in Canadian funds, like a cashier's check, and mailed it, physically mailed it to us so we could then deposit it. But now that's not really working very well. If they send you a credit card number, you can only pay the Toastmasters fees with that, right? You can't get the club fees. So we are working with our banks. I'm in 2 or 3 clubs trying to do this. Banks today are getting very excited about taking business away from PayPal. So if you talk to your bank about having an e-transfer come directly to the account, or a wire transfer, or a bank account to bank account transfer, I'm sure they can offer you a solution. You will also, of course, in your physical in-person member meetings, have to set up some way to bring in that person online so that everyone can see them. The way Virtual Toastmasters does it, and David Woodcock and Laverne Nowachkowski are members too, as well as a few other people in the room. The best idea is to have either a projector with a screen so everyone can see everyone who's online, or what we do is we meet in our homes and hook it up to our big flat screen TVs. And then we have a camera that is on the speaker in the room. It works pretty well, but boy, we've made a lot of errors in trying to figure out how to do that. But the money thing is always a question. And my biggest suggestion is you go to your bank, say, this is our problem. Have you got a solution for me? Or should we get a PayPal account? And they won't want you to get a PayPal account.
So essentially, they only pay the TI fund to be a Toastmaster member. So we wouldn't be getting any money from them to help us pay rent. Is that right?
Well, no, well, if you are going to take their credit card, that's what will happen. Because you have to use their credit card on Club Central to make the payment. Unless you have some way of accepting credit card payments yourself, I don't know your situation. If you have your own business or something, right? So no, you can charge them and the bank will convert it, right? Say, all right, an American, we have one American member right now in virtual. And I've done the conversion for her the first time she made a payment and we couldn't figure it out. But we are now working with the bank, it's the Bank of Montreal, to try and set up a way to do it. We're just a little bit of a procrastination group at the moment. But I know Cambrian Credit Union is doing it for CPA Toastmasters.
Oh, that's who we deal with.
So you can go and talk to them about it. And if the only way it's a problem is if they're American, the American problem. E-transfers in Canada, from Canada Bank to Canada Bank are easy, anywhere in the country. Those Americans have a problem though. And that's where we're having trouble with the Bank of Montreal. So, I mean, they're trying to help us, but this is it is a conundrum. So ask for it in Canadian funds if they're Canadians.
Well, one other thing, Terry, I think part of the question is, how do you set your club fees for people that attend in person and not in person? That's up to the club how they want to set the fee. If you want to charge them the same amount, that's your business, eh?
After all, you may have to be paying for a Zoom account.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you want to have two structured fees, that's up to you, but they could be the same or they could not be the same. It's up to the club.
Yeah.
Right.
The membership.
And if you want to set up a PayPal, charge the people who want to pay through that, whether it's an in-person member or not, the PayPal fee. The club shouldn't be swallowing the PayPal fee. Someone who wants to pay that way should be willing to pay the extra money. I mean, they have to pay for a stamp and an envelope anyway if they want to send a check, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, fellow Toastmasters, I hope this gave you some information and get you some of the questions that you may have in Pathways answered. I'm pretty sure if you ask me or any of our panel members in person or via email, they will gladly help and answer your questions if you have any other ones.